friends. This is the training that I'm sending out right before Thanksgiving. So I know that this kind of looks like maybe a lot, but what I'm hoping is that doing this work now is going to help us be able to streamline the remainder of Module 2 so that we're being super targeted with the skills that students are being exposed to and having time to practice with, so that you get to the end of Module 2 at a pace that is comfortable, with students who are as prepared as thoroughly as they can be, and have had a lot of time and practice with the skills and standards that the unit offers, but also the ones that they need the most support in. So I'm sending you a copy of this document. Once you make a copy, it will look like this. So in the red section, you can either just from memory, because I'm sure it's burned into your brain, just jot down what is your Module 2 EOM task. You can also copy and paste it, take it from your module planning protocol, whatever you'd like to do. This is a place where it might be helpful to go back to your module planning document just so that you can copy and paste where you've already written down what the key skills and standards are for the Module 2 EOM task, what are the things that students really need to know how to do, and what is the content that students really need to know to be able to access the EOM and make a valiant effort at it. This yellow box is a place for you to just jot down the other additional skills and needs that your students have that might fall outside of the ones for the EOM task. A lot of you guys, at all different levels have talked about foundational needs that you're finding either in pockets of your classes or maybe in larger groups. So what other foundational needs are you already supporting your students in, either during intervention time or small group time, or in the form of scaffolds that you're offering to students as they're accessing the Wit and Wisdom curriculum. The next step is to look back at these two boxes, the orange box and the yellow box, because this is where we're going to kind of be able to start distilling down what are the most important things that students need to be getting and practicing and accessing throughout this unit, because these are the things that we can start, like the data points that we can start to track throughout this module, which will help hopefully reduce some of your grading and also make your small group planning a lot easier, because you'll be able just to pull up that spreadsheet that we looked at earlier and see, automatically color coded for you who needs what support and what skills, these super important identified skills. So what you're going to do is look at these two boxes and pull out the 5 to 8 skills and standards that your students need the most exposure to and practice throughout the module. You may end up wanting to add a couple more, especially if you know that there's a small group of students who has this isolated but significant need. You can certainly add more. But with the standards tracker document that Wit and Wisdom had provided before, there were only maybe 5 to 8. So I wanted to keep it as streamlined as possible there too. So once you have these, 8 skills and standards identified as the ones that are the most urgent for your students, you will, please excuse me, you'll move down to these next boxes. And again, this looks long, but that's just because I talk a lot and I struggled to make this concise. What you're going to do is you're going to look at, for your first skill, if it's RL63 or whatever it is, you're going to look through your first focus question arc, which you're probably a good part of the way through, and also the second one, and you're going to look at which lessons within these two arcs, if you want to do the whole module, do the whole module, but which lessons within these two arcs are really focused on teaching students about this first skill. Just for example, we'll say it's RL65, whatever, and then you'll type, lesson 3, lesson 8, lesson 9, lesson 30, whatever, after you've gone through and you've looked at these focus question arcs. Also looking though at which activities, because within lesson 3, there might be 4 different activities and maybe only 2 of them are super targeted towards lesson 6. So you could even be as specific as saying lesson 3, the stop and shot, or whatever else, so that you have a really clear sense of, also you're going to need to type your standard at the top. So I would say RL 6.5, and then I would have my list of the lessons and or activities that are most clearly connected to teaching students about the standard, giving them exposure to the standard, and also where are the places where you can collect data on how well are students moving towards mastery of this standard. If this is one of the most important standards for this unit, these are going to be the times and the places within your unit where you're really going to want to be looking at that data and being like, okay, this is one of the things that I do need to get into the grade book because I know that this is an important standard. So this is one of the activities that I definitely need to grade and give feedback on because it's going to give me valuable information. So you'll do the same thing for the other standards. If your next one was phonics, this is something that might not be in the 6th grade wit and wisdom curriculum, but you would, or maybe it would probably be more specific than that, phonological awareness. Sorry, I got distracted there. Phonological awareness. So if you get to one of these skills or standards that's falling kind of outside of the scope of wit and wisdom, but is something that is definitely a skill that needs that your students need time and practice with, this is a place to look within the it'll be probably less clear than the standards that are already part of wit and wisdom, but this is a place to look within the unit and see, awesome, which of these activities, which of these texts provide an opportunity for me to give my students practice on this maybe foundational skill with the activities and the lessons that they're already getting exposed to through the wit and wisdom curriculum. So you might see that in lesson 19, the supplemental text, whatever the activity is, whatever the thing that you're realizing is a place where you can give your students some exposure to practicing the skill, learning the skill, and then collecting data about students' mastery of this skill. Once you guys have gone through and figured out where all these places are, what I will do is I'll go in and I will input them for you into a tracker like this. This is just the blank one for grade 6. But once you figure out what your standards are that you want to track, I will input them for you in here, which is why it's important for you to tell me which lessons you want to track things in. So let's say that you're the 6th grade teacher and you figure out that you want the first skill that you track to be RI 6.3. Awesome. And I'll go back and look at your sheet and see, okay, well, they wanted to do lesson 3, lesson 8, 19. I'll input these for you so that, as you remember from when we talked about this before, it'll automatically keep track for you of how your students are doing with the mastery of that skill, so that as you are preparing for small group instruction or preparing for reteaching or preparing for an IEP meeting or preparing for a parent conference or whatever, you can just pull this up and say, okay, cool. Yeah, I have a meeting about Ariane Smart. I know that for this one standard, she's kind of all over the board, a little inconsistent, and she is, still has some ways to go towards consistently demonstrating mastery of this standard. Also a great way to figure out how you want to do small groups, if you want to do small groups that are based on the standards for that module. So take your time this week. If you have any time next week that you're not spending with family, you can finish working on this. And then once you finish working on these, I will input all these things for you. So it should be delivered to you fully functioning next week to help you streamline your wisdom so that you know what the important lessons are, the most important activities are, the most valuable places to stop and collect data.